what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Gerald here with your weather forecast. Happy Thursday. We're almost to the weekend, which means we are almost to what is beginning to shape up to look like quite an impactful winter storm for some of us here in the southeast, and for a lot of us, the first snow we've really seen this winter. So this will be a very exciting video, one I'm looking very forward to, and this is also kind of my own home ground I'm going to be talking about here, which is also super exciting to be able to talk about. So I'm likely going to go a little more in depth than I normally do into certain areas in this video, and that's mainly just because I know these areas. I've kind of lived here my entire life, so I feel a little more comfortable forecasting for some of the different terrains and things like that. So we're going to do all that in today's video, but if you are new, welcome. My name is Gerald. I'm a meteorology major at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, and hopefully you enjoy today's video. But even if you don't, hopefully you learned something at least, and that is the main goal here, is to inform you of what to expect this weekend. But with all that said, let's go ahead and get right into it, because we do have a lot going on here in the southeast for this coming weekend. But as for right now, we kind of just have the leftover remnants of that system from yesterday that produced some severe weather here into sections of the southeast. And, you know, this is luckily finally beginning to move out, and this will likely work its way up through Canada over the next 12 to 24 hours before eventually setting up the stage for a winter storm through sections of the southeast. So looking at that on satellite, what this is going to do in terms of setting up this weekend storm is you can see this kind of arcing here and this long kind of front or cold front here on the backside. What's going to happen this weekend is we're going to get some low pressure to form on this and work its way up the Carolina coastline and help to produce some snow. So looking at temperatures from this afternoon, it has been really beautiful out there. We're in the 70s through much of the Carolinas, and even 70s up here into Ohio in kind of the early part of February still. So very impressive stuff to see this time of year. A lot of different things going on in terms of the weather. It's a very complex situation that has kind of been ongoing for the past couple of days and will continue. Looking at those hazards right now, we do have winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings here into sections of the Midwest and New England for some of that snow that is left over from that current system. But other than that, we just got a big old bunch of wind going on here across sections of kind of the Ohio River Valley, with wind advisories and even high wind warnings for some of us here from Indianapolis over to Cincinnati and down into sections of Kentucky. So looking at tonight, we're still going to have another warm night ahead of us for a lot of us here in the southeast. You can pretty clearly see where this front is going to be tonight, kind of sagging south, working its way east. And going into tomorrow, it's not really going to move a whole lot. Still another really warm day ahead of us tomorrow here along especially the Carolina coastline, from Jacksonville up through Beaufort, South Carolina, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, Fayetteville. Seeing another warm day tomorrow, but even for areas further inland here into the southeast, a warm day ahead of us tomorrow, especially for February standards. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to kind of give you a bit of an overview of what to expect as a whole with this system, and then we're going to go more in depth on some of our different models and what I think is the most likely solution. So right now, this is what we got. We got this low pressure that we've been talking about. It's working its way up through Canada going into tonight before eventually clearing out going into tomorrow. So tomorrow afternoon, what's going to happen is we're going to have this leftover frontal boundary down here to the south, and that is going to help to produce some showers and storms, I think mainly on the coastline as well as the Midlands of the Carolinas here through the Piedmont tomorrow afternoon. But once we get into Saturday, low pressure is going to begin to form on this frontal boundary here into the Gulf, and that is going to ride up the Carolina coastline and produce quite the winter storm for some of us, but a lot of us seeing at least some type of snow out of this. So as we go into Saturday afternoon, you can see this low pressure. It's going to really crank up here, and you might be wondering right now, where's the snow? This is for Saturday evening, and a lot of us, I can tell you right now, during the day Saturday, are going to be saying it's too warm for snow. There's no snow. It's just raining. They all got it wrong, and that's to be expected because Saturday isn't really going to be that cold. What's going to happen is going into Saturday night, we're going to get something called dynamic cooling with this system. So what that is this low pressure here, pretty much it intensifies, and it has an upper level component to it kind of on this side that is a lot colder in the upper parts of the atmosphere. So what's going to happen over here where we have that colder air into the upper parts of the atmosphere, whenever it starts to rain heavily, that rain is actually going to bring the cold air down through the troposphere and eventually to the surface, where even if we're in, the mid to lower 30s and above freezing, a lot of us are going to see snow begin to fall because that cold air works through the atmosphere and we keep that snow through most of it before it begins to slowly melt as it works its way to the surface where those temperatures are slightly above freezing. So that's what's going to happen. That's the setup, and that's going to really start Saturday night, continue into Sunday and Sunday afternoon before the system finally works out of the region, going into Sunday night and into Monday to start off next week. So let's start here by looking at our GFS model. This is honestly the first model that really sniffed this thing out. So, kudos to the GFS. For once, it kind of beat the Euro to hinting out a storm signal. So we'll go ahead and start with this model. And as you can see here, we begin to get into Saturday afternoon here, and we get a lot of rain, really, across a lot of the southeast, although snow here into the higher elevations of the mountains. As the GFS goes into Saturday evening and into Saturday night, you can see that transition begins into the mountains with rain changing over to snow, and this would be very heavy, wet snow. And then eventually, as we get further into the overnight, you can see this snow line tries to crash south out of the mountains here and work its way into the foothills into upstate South Carolina. And then as we begin to get into sunrise on Sunday, look at this big band of snow ongoing here from Atlanta up I-85 through GSP, back closer to the Charlotte area, although mainly points westbound of Charlotte. Still heavy snow ongoing up towards Asheville, Boone, and then also snow back here into Tennessee, into the Tri-Cities, Knoxville, Johnson City, Bristol, Jefferson City, all these places into sections of Tennessee. Could definitely see quite a healthy amount of snow out of this system, I think. But what I do want you to notice is this is going to be a very close line to where we have those temperatures cold enough through the layers of the atmosphere to get snowfall versus those places that are sitting in the 30s and raining. So a place like Charlotte, it's going to be really close. Columbia, South Carolina, really close. Places like Raleigh, Fayetteville, Charleston, Savannah, it really looks like all rain for you guys. So this really looks like a Western Carolina, East Tennessee, Northern Georgia, Southwest Virginia kind of storm at this moment in time. And I doubt we'll go too far from that general thinking. But the GFS going through the day Sunday continues that snow in upstate South Carolina, western North Carolina, through the Tri-Cities area of Tennessee, and then southwest Virginia as well, getting in on that action. And by the time we get to Sunday afternoon, the GFS is just cranking the snow into sections of the mountains before eventually this kind of works up through the rest of Virginia and the mountains of Virginia, and then we clear out going into Monday. So that's the GFS operational run. I want to show you the GFS ensembles now. And what these are going to show you is the chance of seeing at least an inch of snow accumulating with this storm system. So moving this ahead, we're going to go ahead and look at the system. So you can see those chances increase here into the mountains of North Carolina, starting off going into about sunset Saturday. Then as we get into midnight, look at these numbers begin to blossom. So I'll tell you, the mountains of North Carolina, I really think you're getting a snowstorm this weekend. I really do. I think that is pretty well set in stone. But the GFS brings these chances above 50% even down here into the foothills. And the GFS really painting a classic I-85 snowstorm here in terms of locations. So I'm talking Oconee County, Pickens County, Greenville County, so Walhalla, West Union, Pickens, Travelers Rest, Landrum, Chesney, these communities in South Carolina, back up towards Hendersonville, seeing those chances above 50% of getting an inch of snow, and then back here towards the Tri-Cities area as well, seeing those chances above 50%. Now, for those of us that are less than 50 but still notable, Charlotte, you're hovering right around 30, back down towards Greenwood, Abbeville, Lawrence, you're hovering around 30% chance, and then once you get back towards Columbia, you're really starting to, it looks like a pretty big stretch, I guess is what I'm trying to say, to see that snow accumulate that much, but in the mountains, this really looks like it's a mountain snowstorm. That's going to happen. As for the foothills, we're beginning to gain confidence, I think, that we see snow in the foothills, and then again, this eventually works its way out of the region going into Monday. So that's the GFS and the GFS ensembles. I'm going to show you now the Euro and the Euro ensembles. So we'll move this ahead. The Euro, pretty similar to the GFS to the lead up. And then the Euro here, again, starting Saturday evening, really past sunset here, you can see we get this precipitation movement, and the Euro has showed potentially starting as a bit of a rain-snow mix here into sections of the western Carolinas and northeast Georgia. And the main reason for that is the Euro shows much lower dew points at the start of this. It shows some of this kind of drier air being able to work its way in ahead of this system. That would help to maybe allow this precipitation to start as rain and snow here. But then the Euro transitions that to very heavy wet snow into the mountains, and then kind of a mixed bag of stuff here into North Georgia, upstate South Carolina, before eventually, this becomes pretty solid snow here into sections of eastern Tennessee. So again, Knoxville, I think Johnson City seeing some of that snow. And then, still a lot of battling ongoing here into upstate South Carolina for that dominant precipitation type. And then as we get into Sunday afternoon, again, we got quite a snowstorm ongoing here into eastern Tennessee and the mountains of North Carolina, and then still fighting it out here over upstate South Carolina just because it's such a close call. It really is between what we see. But that's the operational Euro. And again, what you notice that this shares with the GFS is you're getting a snowstorm here in the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee. That I can just about guarantee it now. Looking at the Euro ensembles for the same thing we looked at with the GFS, the chances of seeing that snow, you can see this is a bit further west on the Euro. So the GFS had more of this kind of area in that bullseye. The Euro is further over sections of Tennessee, North Georgia, having those highest chances. So Atlanta, near 40% chance of seeing an inch of snow, while a place like Charlotte's barely getting out of the single digits to see an inch of snow. So still, we do have some inconsistency for a lot of these places, but where you see that consistency is in the mountains of North Carolina seeing a snowstorm. Also here on the Euro, you still kind of see this general I-85 northbound kind of idea here into upstate South Carolina. So Oconee, Pickens County, you're climbing out of the 30% range on the Euro as well. So you're getting about 30 out of the Euro and then about 70 out of the GFS. So it's about a 50-50 shot here, I think, in the foothills of the Carolinas. As for North Georgia, you've definitely uptrended recently. A couple days ago, I would have said North Georgia's probably not really in this, but as of really the past 24 hours or so, those chances have been increasing here into the Dalton, Georgia area, up towards Toccoa, up towards the higher terrains of Georgia. And then same story for Tennessee. It looked like a couple days ago this could be a Columbia, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina storm. Now it's looking like maybe a Knoxville, Tennessee kind of storm. So we're going to continue to watch these trends. We have time for this to continue to trend. This could just be one swing in one direction, and then tomorrow we swing back this direction. That's a very real possibility. And with a system that's so dynamic and difficult to forecast like this one is, just because of the way it's going to work, it's really one of those storms that we probably won't have an amazing idea till Saturday of who really is going to see what. And unfortunately, that's just the nature of this kind of storm. But you may be wondering, why do we have these differences? Why does the Euro show more snow over here towards Georgia and Tennessee, while the GFS shows more snow here into the Carolinas? So we're going to talk about that. Looking at the Euro ensembles, this is why the Euro shows more of that snow over sections of Tennessee and Georgia. These are tracks of that low pressure. You can see a lot of the Euro ensembles are clustering on that track going right through the Midlands of South Carolina, and what that does is that sets up that area that can see that snow further back west towards Tennessee and North Georgia. You look at the GFS ensembles, and we're a lot further here over the Carolina coastline with that clustering. I will note, though, I'm leaning towards the Euro here just because you do also notice some clustering here with some of the GFS ensembles back towards that Euro solution. And it just kind of felt like the Euros won a lot of these battles in the short range. So we're definitely going to watch that. But that's the main reason we have these differences right now between the two. So if we bring all of our models together, add them all up, divide them, get an average here of what is the most likely scenario in terms of snowfall, this is what they come up with. Snow, it's going to happen in the North Carolina mountains. Foothills and Piedmont of the Carolinas, a lot of question marks still. Tennessee, a lot of question marks still. But I think definitely today we've definitely come to the consensus, we're getting a snowstorm here along the Appalachian chain in the Carolina mountains. I think we've also come to the consensus that Tennessee's uptrending, while a place like Charlotte, Columbia are downtrending. And then a place like GSP, Atlanta, your chances have really stayed about the same. So That's generally what we've seen across the models today. This is kind of what I'm thinking right now, and I know this is a bit of a, probably looks like a 5-year-old drew this, so I'm sorry about that, but I kind of just threw this together pretty quickly, just so I'd have something to talk about. So, in kind of this area here that I've drawn here in the North Carolina mountains, I think that's, you're seeing snow. If I had to put a number on it right now, just because we're kind of in a closer range, I think 3 to 5 inches through much of North Carolina is a pretty safe bet right now. I don't think that's overshooting it or undershooting it too terribly much. At least in the higher elevations, the valleys, I think will be more 1 to 3 inches. Into this kind of blue area, I think that's I feel pretty confident you're going to see snow fly. Does that snow stick or really accumulate too much? You know, that's a bit iffy. But I think here into upstate South Carolina, along the I-85 corridor and north here into the foothills from West Union, really over through Cherokee County, has that chance. Then up here through the North Carolina foothills up towards the Triad, also having that chance. I think it's pretty likely snow at least flies. But whether that accumulates or not, we'll see. And then I've also included kind of this section of Tennessee just because I want to see a little bit more back-to-back model runs and a little bit more agreement between the models showing that snow more likely over there. Then also sections of northern Georgia, I think snow is looking more likely to fall. Kind of this greenish outline area here stretching from I guess, Union County, North Carolina, back down towards Rock Hill, closer to the Columbia area, back towards Atlanta, and then up towards Dalton, Georgia. I think this is we still have really a lot of question marks. I will say it's kind of downtrending for this general area of the green and uptrending for this area of the green. But I think those are the places that if snow does fly, I'm not really sure it accumulates too much of anything. But I do want to give the disclosure. We're still a ways away in terms of how dynamic this is and how difficult of a forecast it is, so this will change, and I'll update you tomorrow. And by the time we get to Saturday, I'll put more of an actual in-depth totals forecast for all of you. But that's all I've really got for today's video. I know this one was kind of a lot of talking without that many maps, so sorry if it got a little boring there for a little bit, but it's just one of those things that since I know the area a little bit better, I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about it. But with all that said, hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you learned something. If you did, let me know, and also let me know where you're watching from, and if you have any questions that I didn't answer in this video. But I hope you have a great rest of your night, and I will see you all tomorrow.